Ta wiped sweat from his forehead and looked at the small clock on his workbench, almost closing time. His hands were black with grease from a full day of fixing things that others said could not be fixed. He smiled at the thought. His repair shop sat at the edge of Orion Spaceport, where ships from all over the galaxy came to trade, rest, and get fixed. Ta's shop was small but full of tools and spare parts. Signs in many languages hung outside. Ta's repairs. If it's broken, we can fix it. Most engineers at the spaceport worked on big ships. Ta preferred smaller jobs, the things that others gave up on. Strange weapons, old data pads, broken robots, and sometimes armor. Just one more job, he told his helper bot as it cleaned up the day's mess. The small floating robot beeped in response and continued putting tools away. Ta was about to lock the front door when it slid open. A tall figure stood there, blocking the light from the 3 setting suns. She was clearly not human. Her skin had a blue tint, and her eyes were large and gold. She wore battle armor that was cracked and held together with what looked like emergency patches. "Are you still open?" she asked in perfect standard language. Her voice was calm but firm. Ta hesitated. He was tired, but something about the way she stood there, proud even in damaged armor, made him curious. "Yes," he said. "Come in." The alien woman stepped inside, moving with grace despite her bulky armor. She was at least a head taller than Ta. Up close, he could see that her face had small markings that looked like stars. "I am G," she said. "I need repairs to my battle suit. It is urgent." Ta gestured to his main workbench. "Let me take a look." Jai removed parts of her armor carefully. Ta could see that underneath she wore a simple black bodysuit. The armor pieces she placed on his bench were unlike anything he had worked on before. The metal was light but strong, with strange patterns that seemed to shift in the light. "This is very advanced," Ta said as he examined a chest plate with a large crack. "What happened?" "An accident," G said, watching him closely. "Can you fix it?" Todd ran his hand over the unusual metal. Most engineers would say no. The materials were exotic, and the damage was severe. But Tad loved challenges. "Yes," he said, "but it will take time and special materials. And it will be expensive." Jay reached into a small pouch and pulled out 5 glowing crystals. Tad's eyes widened. Each crystal was worth more than he earned in a month. "Will this cover it?" she asked. Ta nodded slowly, trying to hide his surprise. "More than enough." "Who are you with?" "Military. Private security." G's face remained calm. "I am simply someone who needs her armor fixed quickly and quietly." As Ta began to examine the armor more closely, he noticed that Jay watched his every move with intense interest. Most customers dropped off their items and left. Jay pulled up a stool and sat nearby. "You have unusual methods," she said as he began to test the metal's properties. Ta smiled. "That's why people come to me. I find different ways to fix things." As he worked, Ta felt that there was more to this customer than she was telling. Her armor was too fine, her manner too commanding for a simple soldier. But it wasn't his job to ask questions. His job was to fix things. "I'll start right away," he said. "It should be ready in 3 days." "I'll check on your progress tomorrow," Jai replied. For a moment, she almost smiled. "I have a feeling you are exactly what I needed to find." Ta didn't know it yet, but that chance meeting would change his life forever. Tai woke early the next day. He couldn't wait to work on G's armor. He had stayed up late studying the strange metal, and his mind was full of ideas. The armor pieces lay on his special workbench. In the morning light, Tai noticed things he had missed yesterday. The metal had tiny writing on it, too small to read without tools. And the damage, Tai frowned. This was not from normal fighting. "These are blast marks," he said to himself. He touched a long crack in the chest plate. And this was made by a very powerful weapon. Ta pulled out his scanner. The readings confused him. The armor was made of materials he had never seen before. Some parts of it seemed to have their own power source. "This is not normal soldier gear," he muttered. The door chime rang. Ji stood there, watching him with those golden eyes. "You came early," Ta said. "I was curious about your progress," Ji replied. She walked to the workbench and looked at the tools Ta had prepared. "You know," Ta said as he returned to work, "this armor is special, not something a regular soldier would wear." Ji said nothing, but her body became tense. "The metal alone would cost more than a spaceship," Ta continued. "And these marks, you weren't in a normal fight." "You are very observant," Ji finally said. "Will that be a problem?" Ta shook his head. "No, I just like to know what I'm working with." As Tai worked, Jay asked questions about his methods. She knew a lot about engineering. Too much for someone who claimed to be just a soldier. "Where did you learn to fix things?" she asked. "My father was an engineer on Earth," Tai explained. "He taught me the basics. The rest I learned by trying and failing many times." "You have unusual solutions," Jai observed as Tai used heat to reshape a damaged part instead of replacing it. "Humans are good at finding new ways to solve old problems," Ta said with a smile. Just then, Taz's scanner beeped. It had found something in the shoulder piece of the armor. "There's a device here," he said, pointing to a small bump, "hidden in the metal." Ji's eyes narrowed. "Be careful with that." Ta gently probed the area. A small panel slid open, revealing a tiny device. When his tool touched it, the device lit up and projected a glowing symbol into the air. It was beautiful and complex, a spiral design with star-like points. Ji moved quickly. She reached out and pressed something on the device. The symbol vanished. "What was that?" Tai asked. "A communication system," Ji said. Her voice was calm, but Tai could see worry in her eyes. "It is private." Before Tai could ask more questions, they heard a commotion outside. Through the window, they saw 3 aliens talking to shop owners across the street. The aliens wore dark uniforms and carried weapons. "They are asking about visitors," said Ta's helper bot, who was listening from the doorway. Jai stepped away from the window. "How long until the armor is fixed?" "2 more days at least," Ta said. "The damage is worse than I thought." Jai nodded. "Work faster if you can. I will pay extra." She glanced outside again. "And I would appreciate your discretion." After Jai left, Ta couldn't stop thinking about the strange symbol. That night, he searched for it on his datapad. He found nothing. As he was about to give up, his shop's security alarm beeped softly. Someone was trying to break in. Tai quickly turned off the lights and moved to his hidden security screen. What he saw made his heart race. 3 armed figures were at his back door, and moving silently to stop them was Ji, her eyes glowing in the darkness. Tai held his breath as he watched the security screen. The 3 armed figures were trying to break the lock on his back door. They wore black masks and carried long knives. Then Ji appeared from the shadows. She wore no armor, just a simple black bodysuit, but she moved like water, smooth and unstoppable. The first attacker didn't even see her coming. Ji struck quickly, hitting the back of his neck. He fell without a sound. The other 2 turned, raising their weapons. Ji dropped low and swept her leg in a circle, knocking one attacker off his feet. The third slashed at her with his knife, but she caught his arm and twisted. The knife fell. Then she hit him 3 times, so fast Ta could barely see her moves. In less than a minute, all 3 attackers were on the ground. Not one had made a sound. Ji checked each attacker, taking something from one of their pockets. Then she looked directly at Ta's hidden camera and made a small gesture with her hand, a signal to stay inside. 10 minutes later, the attackers were gone. Ta didn't want to know where. Ji knocked on his front door. "You can open now," she said. "It's safe." Ta let her in. "Who were those people? Why were they trying to break into my shop?" "They were looking for me," Ji said. Her face showed no emotion, but Tai could see she was breathing hard from the fight. "Why? Who are you really?" Tai asked. Jai looked at him for a long moment. "Someone who needs to stay hidden. That is all you need to know for now." Tai pointed to his workbench. "Your armor is there. I found more damage inside the chest piece, and that symbol I saw. It's not just for communication, is it?" Ji walked to the armor and ran her fingers over the repairs Ta had made so far. "You have skilled hands." "You're avoiding my questions," Ta said. Ji sighed. "The symbol is, let's say it is like an ID card. A very special one." She turned to face him. "I am traveling with no one knowing who I am. It is better that way. Safer. Safer for who?" "For everyone," Ji said. Her golden eyes seemed to glow in the dim light. "Including you." Ta wasn't satisfied but decided not to push further. He showed Ji the work he had done so far. The main chest plate was almost repaired, but the power systems inside were complex and damaged. "These connections are unlike anything I've seen," Ta said, "but I think I can fix them." Jai watched him work for a while. Then she said something that surprised him. "Thank you for not asking too many questions." Ta looked up. "I still have many questions." "I know, but you keep working anyway." Ji almost smiled. "That is rare." After Jai left, Tai couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about the symbol he had seen. Something about it seemed familiar. Using his old datapad, he searched for information about alien symbols and emblems. After hours of searching, he found it, or something very similar. The glowing spiral with star points was the royal emblem of the Varu Empire, the most powerful alien civilization in this part of the galaxy. Tai sat back, stunned. The Varu were known for their advanced technology and strict rules. They rarely dealt with humans, and their royal emblem was only used by the highest-ranking officials, or... "No," Ta whispered to himself. "It can't be." But deep down, he was beginning to suspect who Ji really was. And if he was right, then he was in much more danger than he had thought. Outside his shop, a large ship passed overhead, casting a shadow on the street. It was not a trading vessel. It was a military ship, with the Varu Empire's colors painted on its side. Tai opened his shop early the next morning. He couldn't stop thinking about what he had discovered. If Ji was connected to the Varu royal family, she was in great danger. And so was he. When Jai arrived, Tai was ready. "We need to talk," he said, closing the door behind her. "Those people last night weren't just random thieves." Ji's face showed no surprise. "No, they weren't. They were looking for you, and now there's a Varu military ship at the spaceport." Ta crossed his arms. "Why are they hunting you?" Jai looked at him for a long moment. "I cannot tell you everything, but yes, I am being pursued." "By your own people?" Tai asked. Jai nodded slowly. "By some who were once my people." Before Tai could ask more questions, his communicator beeped. It was his friend Quan, who worked in port security. "Ta, are you seeing this?" Quan's voice sounded worried. "The whole port is being locked down. They're checking every ship, every building." Ta looked out the window. In the distance, he could see security forces setting up checkpoints on the main streets. "What's going on?" Tai asked. "They say they're looking for a high-value fugitive," Quan replied. "Everyone is being questioned. They'll reach your area by tomorrow morning." After ending the call, Tai turned to Ji. "They're getting closer. Your armor isn't ready yet." "How much longer?" Ji asked. "At least one more day. The power systems are complex." Jai paced the small shop. For the first time, Tai saw worry on her face. Then a small device on her wrist lit up. Ji pressed it, and a message appeared in the air. Tai couldn't read the alien writing, but he could tell from Ji's face that it was bad news. "What is it?" he asked. "My ship has been found," Ji said quietly. "And destroyed." Ta felt a chill. Without a ship, Ji was trapped. And with the port being locked down, there was no escape. "Where will you go?" he asked. Ji's golden eyes met his. "I don't know." Tai made a decision that would change his life. "You can stay here, above my shop. I have a small home. No one will look for you there." "Why would you help me?" Ji asked. "You don't even know who I am." "I know you're in trouble," Ta said. "And I know those people hunting you aren't your friends." Ji seemed about to argue, but then her device beeped again. She looked at the message and her face hardened. "The soldiers are moving faster than expected," she said. "They will be here by nightfall." Tai felt fear rise in his chest, but he pushed it down. "Then we need to hide you now, and I'll keep working on your armor." He led Ji up a narrow staircase at the back of his shop. His home was small, just 2 rooms with simple furniture. Nothing fancy, but it was clean and safe. "You can stay here," Ta said. "I'll bring food and keep working on the armor." Ji looked around the simple home. Then she did something that surprised Ta. She bowed deeply to him. "Thank you," she said. "Your kindness will not be forgotten." As Tai returned to his workshop, he could hear more ships landing at the spaceport. Through his window, he saw soldiers in Varu uniforms moving through the streets. They were getting closer. Tai worked faster than he ever had before. The armor had to be fixed, not just for Ji's sake, but now for his own, because he had just hidden someone the entire Varu military was looking for, and he still didn't know why. Night fell over the spaceport. Tai worked on Ji's armor under a small light, trying to finish the complex repairs. From time to time, he looked up at the ceiling, wondering about the mysterious woman hiding in his home. Upstairs, Ji sat quietly by the window, watching the streets below. Varu soldiers moved from building to building, searching for someone. Searching for her. After midnight, Ta finally took a break. His eyes hurt from the detailed work. He made 2 cups of hot tea and went upstairs. "You should rest," he told Ji as he handed her a cup. "So should you," she replied. "But neither of us can." Ta sat across from her. "The armor will be ready by morning." Ji nodded. "Good. You have my thanks." They sat in silence for a while. Then Tai decided it was time for truth. "I need to know what I'm involved in," he said. "Who are you really? Why is the Varu military hunting you?" Ji looked into her cup. "If I tell you, it will put you in more danger." "I'm already endangered," Ta said. "I'm hiding you from the most powerful empire in the galaxy." Ji seemed to make a decision. She reached for the small device on her wrist and pressed it. A screen appeared in the air between them. It showed a news broadcast. A Varu reporter was speaking. "The search continues for Queen Ji-young of the Varu Empire, who disappeared 3 days ago after an assassination attempt. Officials believe the queen may have been kidnapped." The image on the screen showed a formal portrait of a Varu woman in royal robes and a crown. Even with the formal makeup and elaborate headpiece, Tay recognized her immediately. Ji turned off the screen. She looked at Ta, waiting for his reaction. "You're the queen," Ta whispered. "The queen of the Varu Empire." Ji nodded. "Yes." Ta stood up, his mind racing. "But why are you running from your own people? Why would they hunt their queen?" "Because I am no longer their queen," Ji said. Her voice was sad but firm. "My military council staged a coup. The assassination attempt was their work. When it failed, I escaped." "But why?" Tai asked. "Why would they turn against you?" Ji's golden eyes met his. "Because I wanted peace with humans." She explained that for years she had been working on a treaty with Earth. The treaty would open trade and cultural exchange between humans and the Varu. "But many in my military believed humans were a threat," Ji continued. "They saw my efforts as weakness. They claimed I was a human sympathizer who would weaken our empire." "So they tried to kill you," Ta said. "Yes, and when that failed, they needed to find me before I could contact my loyal supporters." Ji looked down at her hands. "They control the news now. They'd probably say I am dead or that I ran away." Now everything made sense to Ta. Why Ji knew so much about engineering. Why her armor was so advanced. Why the symbol he had seen was the royal emblem. "Why did you come to me?" Tai asked. "Out of everyone in the spaceport, why my shop?" "Two reasons," Ji said. "First, I heard you could fix things no one else could. And I needed my royal armor fixed to contact my supporters. And the second reason," Jai almost smiled. "The military would never think their queen would seek help from a human. They are searching all Varu buildings and ships, but not small human shops." Ta shook his head in disbelief. He had been repairing the armor of the queen of the Varu Empire, and now he was hiding her in his home while her enemies searched for her. "What do we do now?" he asked. "Now," Jay said, "we finish the armor, and then we fight back." Morning came too quickly. Ta had worked through the night, fixing the most important parts of Ji's armor. Now he knew why it was so special. It wasn't just battle armor, but royal technology that contained systems for secure communication. "The main power system is working again," Ta told Ji as they stood in his workshop. "And the communication device should work now too." Jai carefully examined the armor. "This is impressive work. My own engineers said these systems could not be fixed without special tools." Ta smiled a little. "Humans are good at making do with what we have." A knock at the front door made them both freeze. Ta peered through a small gap in the window cover. It was his friend Quan from port security. "I need to let him in," Ta whispered. "He might have news." Jai nodded and quickly moved to hide in the back room. Quan looked nervous when Tai opened the door. "You need to be careful," he said in a low voice. "The Veru soldiers are checking every building now. They say they're looking for a dangerous criminal." "Do you know anything about what's really happening?" Tai asked. Quan looked around to make sure no one was listening. "There are rumors. Some say the Varu queen is missing. Others say she's dead. No one knows the truth." He paused. "But the soldiers seem very interested in repair shops. They've checked 3 already this morning." Tay's heart beat faster. "Why repair shops?" "I don't know, but they're moving this way. They'll be here by evening." Quan put a hand on Ta's shoulder. "If you're hiding anything, or anyone, now is the time to stop." After Quan left, Jai emerged from hiding. "Your friend is right to be worried. He doesn't know about you," Ta said quickly. "I understand, but we may need help." Ji activated the communication device in her armor. It projected a map of the spaceport. "Is there anyone else you trust? Someone who could help us move through the port without being seen?" Ta thought for a moment. "My friend Sun. She's an ex-military pilot. She knows the port better than anyone." Ji nodded. "Contact her." While Tai called Sun, his workshop assistant Hyun arrived for the day's work. Hyun was young and curious. He immediately noticed the strange armor on Ta's workbench. "What is this?" Hyun asked, reaching out to touch it. "Just a special repair job," Ta said quickly. "Don't worry about it." Hyun frowned. "And these new materials? I've never seen them before. They must be very expensive." "It's a private job," Ta said. "Please, just work on the usual repairs today." Hyun looked suspicious but nodded. As he turned away, Tai saw him glancing at the armor again. Later, Sun arrived. She was a tall woman with short hair and sharp eyes. She looked at Ji without surprise. "So this is why the port is crawling with Varu soldiers," Sun said. "You're hiding royalty." "Ta said you could be trusted," Ji said. Sun nodded. "I can. And I know ways through the port that aren't on any map." She looked at the armor. "But that won't help if the armor isn't ready. When will it be finished?" "By tonight," Ta said. "But there's another problem." He explained that a Varu commander named Du was leading the search. Commander Du had been seen at the port, directing soldiers personally. "He is determined," Ji said. "He was one of the leaders of the coup. If he finds me, I will not be taken alive." Sun looked grim. "Then we need a plan. A way to get you to the far side of the port where some ships still leave. As they talked, Ta noticed Hyun standing near the doorway, listening. When their eyes met, Hyun quickly walked away. "We may have another problem," Ta said quietly. "I think my assistant is getting suspicious." Jai looked toward the door. "Then we must move quickly. The circle of those who know about me is growing. And with each new person, the danger grows too." Outside, more Varu ships landed at the port. Time was running out. Evening shadows stretched across the spaceport. From his workshop window, Tai could see Varu soldiers moving from building to building. They were only 3 streets away now. "We don't have much time," he told Ji and Sun. "They'll be here within an hour." Ji nodded, her golden eyes focused on the armor laid out on the workbench. "Is it ready?" "Almost," Ta said. He was connecting the final power links in the chest plate. "The main systems are working. The communication device is active." "Good," Ji said. "We need to contact my loyal supporters now." She placed her hand on the small device embedded in the armor. It glowed, and a secure communication channel opened. Jai spoke quickly in the Varu language. When she finished, she turned to Tai and Sun. "My loyal ships are hiding beyond the moon," she explained. "They can reach the far side of the spaceport in 3 hours. If we can get there, they will extract us." Sun looked at the map of the port. "That's not going to be easy. The main routes are all blocked now." Ta had been thinking about this problem all day. "I have an idea," he said. "The port has maintenance tunnels that run under the main streets. They're used to move goods and waste. Most people don't know about them." "Will they be guarded?" Ji asked. "Probably not," Ta said. "They're narrow and hard to find. But we'll need something to distract the soldiers first." Ta moved to his workbench and began connecting wires to small devices. He had been preparing these while working on the armor. "What are those?" Sun asked. "Small EMP devices," Tai explained. "They will temporarily disable equipment in a small area. We can use them to create confusion." While Tai worked, Jai used the communication system in her armor to gather information. "Commander Du has set up a command center 2 streets away," she reported. "He has ordered a building-by-building search of this entire district." Suddenly, they heard a noise at the front door. Ta looked through the security camera and saw his assistant Hyun talking to 2 Varu soldiers. He was pointing at the workshop. "We have a problem," Ta said. "Hyun is with the soldiers." Sun moved quickly to the back door. "We need to leave now." "The armor isn't fully assembled yet," Ta said. Jay began putting on the armor pieces that were ready. "It will have to do. I can fight with what we have." The front door lock beeped as someone tried to override it. Ta grabbed the remaining armor pieces in his bag of tools. "This way," he said, leading them to a hidden panel in the floor. Just as they disappeared through the hidden panel, the front door burst open. Varu soldiers poured into the workshop, led by a tall officer with a scared face. "Commander Du, search everything," he ordered. "The Queen was here. Find her." Below the workshop, Ta led Ji and Sun through a narrow passage. It connected to the maintenance tunnels he had mentioned. "These tunnels run under the whole port," he whispered. "We can use them to reach the far side." As they moved through the dark tunnels, Jai asked Tai a question. "How did you know about these passages?" "I've spent years fixing things all over the port," Tai explained. "You learn all the hidden places when you do maintenance work." They heard soldiers above them, their boots heavy on the streets. Searchlights pierced through grates in the ceiling. "We need to move faster," Sun urged. Jai stopped suddenly. "Wait. Before we go further, there's something you should know about this armor." Ta looked at her. "What do you mean?" "This isn't just battle armor," Ji said. Her eyes seemed to glow in the dark tunnel. "It's the royal battle suit, a symbol of Varu rulership. It has capabilities you haven't seen yet." "What kind of capabilities?" Tai asked. "Powers that might save our lives," Jai replied. "But only if your repairs are perfect." Above them, alarms began to sound throughout the port. Commander Du's voice echoed through speakers. All exits are sealed. Find the Queen and her human helpers. Their time had run out. The real battle was about to begin. The maintenance tunnel shook as soldiers stomped above. Dust fell from the ceiling. Commander Du's voice continued to echo through the port. Find them. Search every corner. Ta, Ji, and Sun crouched in the darkness. They were trapped. We need to move, Sun whispered, but they're blocking all the exits. Jai stood up, her golden eyes determined. It's time to use the armor. She placed the remaining pieces of armor on her body. The chest plate locked into place with a soft click. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, the armor began to glow with a blue light. What's happening? Tai asked. The royal battle suit is activating, Ji said. Her voice was calm, but filled with power. Your repairs worked, Ta. The armor began to change. Metal plates shifted and expanded. New pieces seemed to grow from the original armor, covering Ji from head to toe. A helmet formed around her head, with a clear face shield that showed only her eyes. Tai and Sun stared in amazement. The simple battle armor had transformed into something much more impressive. A full-body suit that hummed with energy. The royal armor contains technologies kept secret even from my military, Jai explained. Her voice now had a slight echo. It has been passed down through generations of Varu rulers. What can it do? Sun asked. In answer, Ji raised her hand. A shield of blue energy formed in front of her. It can protect, she said. Then she pointed at the tunnel wall, and a beam of light shot from her palm, cutting a small hole through the stone. And it can fight. Tai couldn't believe what he was seeing. I had no idea I was repairing something this powerful. And you did more than repair it, Ji said. The energy output is stronger than before. Your modifications improved it. Tai felt a mix of pride and worry. Will it be enough to get past Commander Du's forces? Jay nodded. With this armor and your help, we have a chance. She turned to Sun. Which way to the far side of the port? Sun pointed down the tunnel. 3 intersections that way, then up to the surface. Then let's move, Ji said. Stay close to me. They moved quickly through the tunnels. When they reached the first exit, they could see Varu soldiers patrolling above. We need a distraction, Sun said. Todd pulled out the small EMP devices he had made. These should work. They'll disable their equipment for about 2 minutes. He activated one device and tossed it up through a grate. There was a soft pulse, and suddenly the soldiers' communication devices went dead. Their lights flickered and died. Now, Ji said. She pushed open the grate and jumped out, her armor glowing in the darkness. The soldiers turned in surprise, raising their weapons. She raised her hands, and energy shields formed around all 3 of them. The soldiers' weapons fired, but the energy blasts bounced off the shields. This way, Sun shouted, pointing to an alley between buildings. They ran as more soldiers appeared. She used her armor's weapons to disable rather than kill, firing energy pulses that knocked soldiers off their feet. Ta had never seen anything like it. The woman he had fought was just a soldier was fighting like a true warrior queen. As they ran through the port, alarms blared. Ta used his knowledge of the area to guide them through service corridors and maintenance areas that didn't appear on regular maps. 2 more sections to cross. Sun panted as they hid behind a cargo container. Suddenly, a large transport ship landed ahead of them, blocking their path. The door opened, and Commander Du stepped out, surrounded by elite guards. Your Majesty, he called out, his voice full of mock respect. Your little escape ends here. Jai stepped forward, her armor glowing brighter. No, Commander, your betrayal ends here. Du laughed. With what army, my queen? You have only 2 humans to help you. Jai's armor hummed louder. The light around her grew intense. I don't need an army, she said. I have something better. She looked at Ta, her eyes visible through the helmet. I have human ingenuity. And with that, she activated the full power of the royal armor. The spaceport fell silent as G's armor blazed with blue light. Commander Du and his guards stepped back, shielding their eyes. "Impossible," Du whispered. "The royal armor cannot be this powerful." But it was. The armor's energy field expanded around G, creating a dome that protected Tai and Sun as well. With a gesture from Jai, waves of energy pushed the guards back. Their weapons fired but did nothing against the shield. "Your weapons cannot harm me," Ji said, her voice amplified by the armor. "Surrender now." Du's face twisted with anger. "Never. The Varu Empire will not be weakened by peace with humans." He pulled out a special weapon, larger than the others, with glowing red lines along its barrel. Tai recognized it as the same type that had damaged G's armor originally. "Look out!" Ta shouted. Du fired. The red beam hit G's shield with tremendous force. The shield held, but Jai stumbled back. "The armor can't take many hits like that," Ta said. Ji nodded. "Then we must end this quickly." She looked at Ta's remaining EMP devices. "Can you modify one to affect only their weapons?" Ta thought for a moment. "Yes, I can adjust the frequency." While Jai maintained the shield, Tai quickly modified one of his devices. "Ready," he said. "On my signal," Ji told them. "When their weapons fail, Sun, you go left. Ta, you go right. I will take Du." Ji dropped the shield suddenly and thrust her hands forward. Energy beams shot from her palms, hitting the ground near the guards. As they scattered, Tai activated the EMP device. The effect was immediate. The guards' weapons sparked and went dead. Du's special weapon sputtered and died in his hands. "Now," Ji shouted. They moved as planned. Sun went left, using her military training to quickly disable 2 guards. Todd went right, using his small tools as weapons to distract the others. Ji flew forward, actually flew, her armor lifting her off the ground, straight at Commander Du. "This is for betraying your queen," she said, grabbing him by his uniform. Du struggled, but against the power of the royal armor, he had no chance. Ji lifted him off the ground. "Your coup has failed," she told him. "My loyal forces are already here." As if on cue, 3 ships appeared in the sky above them. They were Varu royal vessels, marked with the same spiral emblem Tai had seen from Ji's armor. The ships landed around them, and loyal Varu guards poured out. Seeing them, Du's remaining forces dropped their weapons and surrendered. Jai held Du firmly as her loyal guards surrounded them. "Take him into custody," she ordered. "He will stand trial for treason." As the guards led Du away, Ji removed her helmet. Her face was tired but triumphant. She turned to Tai and Sun. "I owe you both my life," she said. Ta looked around at the damaged port. "What happens now?" "I don't think I can go back to my shop after this." Jay smiled, the first real smile Ta had seen from her. "No, you cannot, but I have another option for you." She explained that with Du's capture, she could return to the palace and reclaim her throne. The coup would end, and she would continue her work toward peace with humans. "But I need help," Ji said. "I need someone who understands both Varu and human technology. Someone who can see solutions others cannot." Tai realized what she was offering. "You want me to come with you to the Varu Empire?" Jay nodded. As the royal engineer, the first human to hold a position in the Varu court. Sun grinned. "Sounds like a promotion from fixing broken datapads in a small shop." Ta looked at his hands, still dirty from working on the royal armor. 3 days ago, he had been a simple engineer in a small repair shop. Now he was being offered a position that no human had ever held. "What do you say, Ta?" Ji asked. "Will you help me build a bridge between our worlds?" Ta thought about all he had seen. The advanced Varu technology, the possibilities of what humans and Varu could create together. "Yes," he said. "I will." As they boarded the royal ship, Ta looked back at the spaceport one last time. His old life was ending. But a new one he never could have imagined, was just beginning. The human engineer who had not known he was repairing a queen's armor was now helping that queen change the galaxy.